My name is Rachel, and this is John, and we are the parents of Hersh Goldberg Poland, an American-Israeli civilian who was kidnapped into Gaza 201 days ago.
Seeing a video of Hersh today is overwhelming. We're relieved to see him alive, but we are also concerned about his health and well-being, as well as that of all of the other hostages and all of those suffering in this region. And we're here today with a plea to all of the leaders of the parties who have been negotiating to date. That includes Qatar, Egypt, the United States, Hamas, and Israel. Be brave, lean in, seize this moment, and get a deal done to reunite all of us with our loved ones and to end the suffering in this region.
And Hersh, if you can hear this, we heard your voice today for the first time in 201 days. And if you can hear us, I am telling you, we are telling you, we love you, stay strong, survive. So it's day 199, the Seder is in a few hours. I want to teach you something that I learned this week, that I was on a podcast with someone named David for the podcast called 1840, and he taught me something about the Seder. He taught me that when we get to the part in the Seder of Karpas, it's the third thing that we do. First of all, it's actually the first unusual thing that we're doing, because first we do Kiddush, and then we do washing hands, which is something that many Jews do traditionally before any festive meal, before any Shabbat meal. And Karpas, dipping the vegetable into the salt water, is the first thing that we're doing that is unusual. Now, the root of that, we have all different reasons that we come up with, but the first time that we actually hear that word, the first and last time, by the way, I looked it up, is in the story of Esther, but we're not going to go into that right now. What's interesting is that in the story of Joseph, Rashi, our commentator, from about the 1100s, he comments on the story when Joseph's brothers take his coat, sell him into slavery, and then they dip his coat into blood and they bring it to Jacob, Joseph's father, and they say, oh, it's so sad, but look, we found, and Joseph's dead. And Rashi explains that he says that the coat was that same material that's discussed in the book of Esther, and it's the description, Karpas is the description of the fabric of the coat. And so when we are dipping the Karpas at the beginning of the Seder into the salt water, it's because we're also beginning the story of the Jewish people. We're talking about the downward trajectory. We're talking about the lowest point in Jewish history when we ended up in Egypt in slavery. And that is the beginning of our story. And the end of the Seder, which can take very many hours, as a lot of people know, is we're ushering in Eliyahu Hanavi, we're ushering in Elijah the prophet, and we're ushering in a time, like we sing in Haggadah, of the end of suffering of all people, the Messiah coming. And so what's a nice sort of interesting new idea, unless you know about it, I didn't know about it, is that when you get to Karpas to talk about this idea of we're starting the story with the deepest part of our suffering. This is going to be the hardest Seder I've ever had to sit through in my life, certainly for John as well, and for our girls and for our loved ones who we're going to be with. But we're going to cry out the Seder. The Seder traditionally was a tefillah, was a prayer. We're going to keep it a prayer. We're going to keep shouting out, and we're going to do it the best that we can. And we're going to hope that we can end the suffering, our own suffering. And what I'm wishing for is also the suffering of the 133 hostages who, while we're sitting doing Seders, all of us all over the world, that these people are able to live another day through the suffering that they are still experiencing while we're sitting around our tables. And so I wish for everyone a meaningful Pesach, and I wish for our 133 human souls somehow to get through the night, another night of darkness. And I am really proud of anyone who's still with me. If you made it to the end of this, you get bonus points, and I'm wishing you a double meaningful Pesach.